I'm sick of multi-millionaires telling kids who can't afford to turn the heating on, you just need to be more entrepreneurial. It's sick, Dan, it's sick.
Well, your video where you talk about if you don't have a rich dad, you're screwed. Well, to me, if I had have come across your content at 19, 20 years old, I would have been screwed.
My friends can't feed their kids, okay? If it was that easy, why is everybody not doing it?
I'll tell you why people aren't doing it. It's because...
Can I just say one thing back on that?
Today's debate is fiery to say the least, but important nonetheless, as I sat down with two leading experts in wealth and entrepreneurship and the economy to discuss the state of the US, the state of the UK and the Western world.
Do you think the reason the average Brit or American are getting poorer is because they don't know how to create wealth?
No, the reason people are getting poorer is because of big governments, record levels of taxes, an outdated schooling system, technology and remote working.
You sure about that?
How do you disagree with those opinions?
Living standards are falling because of growing wealth inequality. If you allow the rich to get richer, they squeeze the middle class and the poor class out of things like housing. Let's cut tax on people who are working hard and let's raise tax on the richest and most powerful people in the world.
That's an overly simplified view of things. We now have 1,000 millionaires a month leaving, which means every ordinary person who pays 10 grand a year in tax will now have to pay 20 grand a year in tax. You end up cutting off your nose to spite your face.
If we are a country that don't try and do things which are necessary because they are hard, then our kids will live in poverty.
At the age of 24 years old.
That year, 2011, I put this big bet on that it would get worse forever. And I was Citibank's most profitable trader in the world that year. And I made them just over $35 million.
You made them $35 million. You eventually decide to leave Citibank.
Yeah.
Why?
I mean, I think that's an interesting question, right? You know, in the sense that I've just explained to you what happened, which is I made a ton of money by betting on the collapse of Western society. I did it in 2011. I did it again in 2012. I would prefer for it not to collapse, Stephen. And I'm trying to...
I see with houses, because houses annoy me as well. My dad bought a house for $18,000, which is about £10,000 or less than £10,000, and it's probably worth over $1 million today. So something went on, and this, by the way, is not UK specific. The socialist countries had house prices go through the roof. If you go to Norway or Sweden, their house prices grew by 600%.
It's happening everywhere.
It's everywhere.
It's not specific to anywhere. It's happening everywhere.
But what happened? What has definitely happened in the UK is we actually have a housing traffic jam. So in this country, in the UK, we have 9.5 million homes that have 2 or more spare bedrooms. Big family homes have 2 or more spare bedrooms. And when you look into who owns those houses, 78% of housing wealth is baby boomers. And now, anecdotally, I take my kids trick-or-treating at Halloween, and we go down a street that is big family homes, and you go knock on the doors, and it's all people over 65, right? And they're living in a big family home with empty spare bedrooms.
You think the average American over 65 is living luxuriously?
The average American over 65, so more than half of the US economy is in the hands of baby boomers, right? So they own all the houses. The houses got bought up cheap. Baby boomers still own those houses to this day. The big family homes with multiple spare bedrooms are empty. And now that creates this traffic jam where people my age...
My grandparents,
yeah,
they all owned property. All of
yeah.
them. All 4 of them died with nothing. Because that wealth which they had in property was used in equity release schemes. It was used in paying through their retirement. It was used in end-of-life care. Do you think when those old people die, young people today will be rich?
There is half the economy held by baby boomers. It's either going to be passed down or passed into the aged care industry.
Very rapidly. It's benefiting people like the 3 of us at this table. It will benefit our kids. You know, our kids will be rich, their kids will be poor. And I just think we should be honest with them. Capitalism's finished. We won. Well done, Stephen. Well done, Daniel. Well done, Gary. It's over now. Our kids will be rich, their kids will be poor. They'll pay the taxes, we won't pay the taxes. We'll avoid it. I'll make money betting on it year after year. Why are we lying to them? Why are we lying to them?
Yeah, I think that's an
Going away.
Well, it's not because they're taxing their wealth, because we don't have any wealth taxes.
Why do you think they're leaving?
I think the reason they're leaving is because the UK economy is really, really weak. Because the UK consumer is really, really weak. Because we've absolutely crushed the spending power of your average British family.
And where are they
going? Your average
going?
British family can barely afford to feed the kids and turn the heating on. So why are you going to start a business here when the customers are absolutely impoverished?
Look, it corresponds with a new tax that we brought in, which was we ended the non-dom scheme. So the non-dom scheme basically said if you're living in the UK, but you've got businesses all over the world, then we only tax you on what you've got in the UK. And if you die in the UK, we'll only tax you on your UK assets for inheritance tax if you're a non-dom. But if you die in the UK and you've got wealth in India, once that non-dom scheme ended, they basically said we will tax you on everything globally. If you're if you're a tax resident in the UK, everything you've got globally, we want 40% of it. So unfortunately, every wealth manager contacted their clients and said, you can't stay here. You're going to have to get out. It's gotten really bad. 1,000 people a month are leaving, and in the UK, 1% of people pay 30% of the taxes, 10% of people pay 60% of the taxes. And you imagine if we're sitting out at dinner and there's 10 of us out for dinner, and one person says, hey, I've got this, I'll get 60% of the bill tonight. We say to them, no, it should be 70%, it should be 80%. And they say, you know what, I'll get up and leave. So they leave, everyone else's bill just doubled. So what's gonna happen is if we drive the millionaires out of this country, every ordinary normal person who pays 10 grand a year in tax will now have to pay 20 grand a year in tax.
So the reason they left is because we used to allow them to not pay tax. And
on their global incomes, on their global
So isn't it a
businesses.
bit more like if we were 10 of us at dinner and there was one guy who came onto dinner on the condition he wouldn't pay, then leaves? Because these guys weren't paying tax anyway. If the reason they left is because they weren't paying tax.
It's like saying, hey, I'll pay 60% of this table, and they say at the table, hey, wait a second, we also want you to pay for everything that's happening at other restaurants as well.
Isn't it a bit more like these guys
And we're stretching
were
the
here
analogy.
on a condition? You yourself said
No, you're 100%
the
right.
reason why
Yeah.
they left is because we let them live here on the condition that they didn't have to pay taxes.
On their global, taxes matter, right? So why is everyone going to Dubai? Dubai, they're going there because there's no tax.
These guys, they live in Dubai, their money comes from the West. They are making money from the West, while your average Western, ordinary person watching this show now cannot afford to buy a house, cannot afford to have a family. We can tax those revenues at the point of sale. Why do we allow these guys?
It's called a consumption tax.
No, it's not. It's a tax on profits.
You
It's not a tax on consumption.
You just said at point of sale, which means it's a consumption
Yeah, based on the profits. You look at how much profit
Well,
they
that's
have,
not- that's not
and
a
then you work
consumption
out where the profits go. Exactly, it's not a consumption tax, like I'm saying.
So if you tax profits,
Yeah.
right, then those profits have to accumulate in that country. And because of the digital ecosystem that we now have, the world we now live in, I can lease the database off of my company in Luxembourg. I can license my logo from a company.
I understand how profit shifting works.
Go on.
Okay, so listen, these guys are not Gandalf. You just say, we don't accept profit shifting. We don't need to accept profit shifting. China does not accept profit shifting. We did not accept profit shifting 50 years ago. We do not have to accept profit shifting. But you have a government class who are extremely wealthy and a media class who are extremely wealthy saying it's impossible to tax rich people. And I would like to say, I will agree 100%. It is difficult to tax rich people.
Yeah.
It is very, very, very difficult to tax rich
So
people.
the difference-
I don't come here saying I want to tax rich people because it's easy. I know it's hard. I know probably I'm going to lose. I know our viewers' kids will live in desperate poverty. I know that. I do this because it is hard. If we are a country...
When people sidestep that and say, okay, I'm not going to get into university debt, I'm just going to go off and actually figure out how the world works, there's actually loads of opportunities.
Okay, so I guess we've sorted it then. All of our viewers need to do is go and buy Dan's book, become an entrepreneur and become a millionaire. It's that easy. Why weren't you guys doing it to begin with? They're idiots. The viewers are idiots. They should be just being more entrepreneurial. It's as simple as that. More entrepreneurial, start a business. Listen, I come from East London, okay? My friends can't feed their kids, okay? And if it was as simple as going out and being an entrepreneur, I can bet you they would do it. I can bet you they would do it. I'm sick of multi-millionaires telling kids who can't afford to turn the heating on, you just need to be more entrepreneurial. It's sick, Dan, it's sick. This gives people mental illness. It gives people mental illness. Tell them the truth, okay? Your older generation, we took the opportunities and now it is almost impossible to get out of poverty. And don't just stand up there and wave, your millions of pounds in front of them and say, if you were entrepreneurial like me, you could do it, you could have it. Because it's sick because they can't. They can't feed their kids, Dan. They can't turn the heating on. Don't tell them to be more entrepreneurial. Fix the system that drives more and more and more of them into poverty every generation.
I find it very strange that you think it would be easier to fix the entire global economic system than to start a business.
I've got a question for both of you, which is if you are a young person and you're 18 years old now, and that you're listening to this, but your objective really is an individualistic one. You want to get rich and you have a great future for you and your family, like all of us have been able to do. What would your advice be to them, Gary, at this moment in time?
This is such a hard question. I know Dan's angry at me for what I put in my video, how to get rich. Somebody came around to my house and asked me this the other day. Obviously, I get asked it a lot because, stupidly, I'm very public about the fact that I'm rich. What I did is not replicable. It's not. I'm sorry, but it's not. People always say, why don't you teach me to trade? Like, it's hard. It's hard trading and it's dangerous. And I think a lot of young men are getting sort of sold into trading and becoming gambling addicts. You know, work hard. And I wouldn't even say don't become an entrepreneur. I've never ever said these things. Work hard. You know, if you think that you have an opportunity in tech entrepreneurship, go for it. Understand it's risky. I think that sometimes this message, just become an entrepreneur and you'll make it, is a bit dangerous because I think most people who try to become entrepreneurs fail, and I think it's super, super dangerous. The reality is, and you know, maybe Dan won't like this, maybe you won't like this, I think it is very, very difficult for a young man or a young woman from a poor family to become rich. And I think it's increasingly hard even to just get those basics of financial security. So, listen, obviously reduce your spending if you can. Don't buy into this like Balenciaga bullshit. Stay away from that. But work hard, study hard, try to get a good job. But also understand, we are shrinking the seats on the lifeboat. That's what we're doing. We used to allow 50% to be secure. Then it's 40%, then it's 30%, then it's 20%. You know, you've got family in Nigeria. If a young person from like shantytown in Nigeria came to you and said, Stephen, what can I do to get rich? You would have to say to him realistically, listen, you are in a difficult situation here. You need to work really, really hard. But if you are able to make enough money to support a family, be proud of yourself.
What I would actually say to them, so yeah, I have got family in Nigeria. For people that don't know, I'm by blood half Nigerian. I would say to them that knowledge is really your life raft. So obviously there's a big tech boom happening in Nigeria, which is liberating a lot of people from that situation. So I would try and tell them to get on the life raft that is like knowledge of this new revolution. So from Nigeria, you can learn to code, and then the great thing now is that we literally have, actually, this is quite interesting, we're building a tech company in San Francisco called Flightcast. It's live, everyone can go look at it, flightcast.com. And the lead developer, and Guess Radar, the lead developer of Guess Radar is a Nigerian guy.
But how many of those jobs in the Nigerian tech sector are going to kids that grew up in the shanty towns?
I have no idea.
Because I worked in, people ask me, tell me how to do what you did, all right? I worked in Canary Wharf. It's in East London. I could see the build to understand is that this gets worse. This gets much, much worse. It will get much worse relatively quickly. Poverty will increase relatively quickly. It will become increasingly difficult, almost impossible to make any serious money. Prepare yourself for that. Prepare yourself when you consider your finances, when you consider your plans for having a family. This gets worse and it's going to be really, really hard. It's going to be a big mental health problem for a lot of young people. So speak to people and understand that. My YouTube videos are there, Gary's Economics, for people to understand what's happening. After that, you've got to do all the right things. Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with you. You've got to work hard. You've got to study the right things. I think it's a great shame we have made subjects like the arts a thing which you're not allowed. If you come from a poor background, you cannot work in the arts. I'm sorry, you can't pay the bills. You can't. So you have to go and study AI and computing and, you know, maybe social media, although we have to be honest, social media doesn't pay for most people. You have to realize the reality of your situation. It's very, 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 very bad. That doesn't mean you don't want it. That doesn't mean you don't aspire. You work damn hard because you have to. But if you manage to make enough money to even support a family, you should be proud of yourself. That's the number one thing. But recognize this can be changed. This can be changed. Our grandparents, our great-grandparents fought for a bigger share of the pie and they got it. They got healthcare, they got education, they got housing, they got food. Our young people can have that as well, but they won't get it unless they fight for it. So I would encourage people to educate themselves, support my work, get involved politically, but also work hard, support your friends and family. Try and make money because you'll have to. If you don't play politics, I guarantee you the other side will play politics.